I wouldn't wish what happened to this guy upon my worst enemy because it sounds absolutely terrifying. This slideshow that I got tagged in is actually pretty interesting, starting off by saying the iceberg of dreams. Then we get a list of progressively worse dreamlike states that you can have. But what we're going to be talking about is down here at the bottom, the story of Clifford Hoyt. Clifford was a man who back in 1999 suffered some extremely serious injuries after getting into a car accident, and these left him in a coma for a few days. Eventually, a few days later, Clifford woke up from his coma, but he was freaking out, saying that he had just been to hell and back, literally. He talked about the tortures and anguish that he experienced, but overall refused psychiatric treatment, and he was released. In the following weeks, Clifford would completely lose it, playing strange music all hours of the day to scare away demons, and cuddling with giant blocks of ice to soothe the burning on his skin. Many people blame his car accident, but what do you think? In any event, to my understanding, Clifford is now permanently in psychiatric care and getting the treatment that he needs. If you've been on YouTube for quite some time, more than likely this is a video that has traumatized you, and I'm sure that you've seen it. So this slideshow that I got tagged in starts off by saying, did you know? There's a video of a girl doing makeup, and all of a sudden she turns psycho and starts slamming her head into a desk. Now the video that they're referring to is this one. It's called Party Makeup by Nikki, and it was first uploaded back in 2014. However, the channel that uploaded it has since deleted it, but it has been reposted, and in this video, this girl's doing makeup. It looks like a standard tutorial. She then pauses, does this facial expression, and then she starts moving her head very violently into the table like this, and the video ends with her just laying there. Now back then, I thought this video was real, but now I know better. The actress in the video is Nakia Seacrest, and this video was kind of like a Blair Witch trial. It was supposed to be realistic, but obviously fake. Still, the video could be disturbing for some viewers, but if you seek it out, be aware that it is not real. Imagine going to the doctor because you're coughing up blood and they think it's a tumor, but instead of a tumor, it's actually a tree growing inside. That's the exact story this creepy orange slideshow is talking about, starting off by saying, did you know that fir trees can and have grown inside of the lungs of people? Now, the story they're talking about specifically happened back in 2009, involving this man, Artyom, who went to the doctor after he was coughing up blood and experiencing intense pain. Doctors took an x-ray, saw this, and assumed that it was a tumor, so they decided to cut it open and remove it. But instead, they allegedly found a 5-centimeter fir sapling growing inside of his lung. Doctors assumed that he might have accidentally inhaled a seed and it germinated and grew inside of his lungs. And while this might make sense initially, this is more than likely a fake story because all plants need sunlight to survive. It's not going to be able to grow without sunlight in your lung. Plus, you would more than likely experience extreme irritation from inhaling a seed, so you'd know. So let me know whether or not you guys believe in this case, but again, personally, I don't. Well, this one's probably going to make a lot of people uncomfortable. In doing research, I made myself uncomfortable as well, but we're going to talk about it. This is a creepy orange slideshow that I got tagged in, starting off by saying, did you know? If you push too hard, there's a chance your intestines could come out, and this is known as rectal prolapse. Now, this is basically when a portion of your intestines come out of the area where you do number 2, and there are varying degrees of severity, but in general, this is not good for you. This is caused by a variety of different things, but in general, when your pelvic floor, which are muscles that hold your rectum in place, are weakened, this is when you are at greatest risk of this happening. In 85% of these cases, this is usually the result of childbirth, so I'm sorry, ladies, but that is quite terrifying. I'm sorry you have to deal with that. On the bright side, you can minimize your chances of this happening by doing exercises that strengthen the pelvic floor, and also be aware that this is something that you can treat. And as long as you treat this quickly, you're probably not going to have any long-term complications. If you were to ask me to bet money on whether or not I thought this story was real, I would have bet against it, but apparently it is 100% real. This is another Did You Know slideshow that I got tagged in that starts off by saying, did you know? Back in 2011, a woman was declared dead after a heart attack, but woke up later at her funeral, only to have another heart attack. So for some backstory, this happened in Russia, and the woman that was involved in this incident was a 49-year-old woman by the name of Fagiliu. She had reportedly had this heart attack at home, and when doctors arrived on scene, they declared her deceased, so her husband started planning her funeral and decided that it was going to be an open casket ceremony. During the ceremony, though, it turns out Fagilyu was still alive. She woke up, she saw everyone looking down and mourning her, and promptly went into another heart attack. From here, she was rushed to the hospital quickly, but only survived for an additional 12 minutes before officially kicking the bucket. And if I were her husband, I would be very upset, seeing as she didn't get treatment after the first heart attack and survived 3 days. She probably would have recovered. I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt and say, yes, this could technically be true, but still, I'm not going to be answering spam calls. So this is another Did You Know slideshow with a pretty interesting thought, starting off by saying, did you know that spam calls you get and ignore could be missing people calling a random number trying to get help? Now this statement might make you think twice about answering spam calls on your phone, but this is why you shouldn't do that. So if we're talking about a US-based number, a missing person would have to correctly guess an area code, as well as a 7-digit combination with numbers ranging from 0 to 9. This means if a missing person had the correct area code, they would have a 1 in 10 million chance of selecting your number out of anyone else's. Meaning these calls are 99.99% likely to be a scam. Additionally, if you answer a scam call, you're going to be placed on a list of people that will pick up the phone, and even more scammers will call you. So if 10 million people were to watch this video, one of you guys would get in contact with a missing person if you picked up the phone. Everybody else would be getting spam calls nonstop. There is no shortage of strange things happening in this world, and shockingly, this thing that happened back in 1783 is 100% real. This is another Did You Know slideshow that I got tagged in. First slide saying, did you know that in 1783 there was a boy born who had another head attached to his that was fully functional? Now, if you're having a hard time conceptualizing what this might look like, here's an artistic illustration of that, and this guy was known as the two-headed boy of Bengal. Now, this condition is exceptionally rare, with roughly 12 cases recorded around the world in past years, and it's formally known as craniopagus parasiticus. Usually, the second head in these cases is underdeveloped and not fully functional, and the boy of Bengal actually passed away at 4 years of age from a snake bite. The skull is on display, but that being said, I don't think that the second head was fully functional. There's nothing supporting that theory. Again, though, this is something that does actually happen. It's just exceptionally rare, so probably not something you're going to see intimately. Raise your hand if you've heard a variation of this before. NASA completely stopped exploring the ocean back in whatever year because they discovered something so disturbing that it made them want to focus on getting humans off this Earth. This is exactly the claim that this slideshow brings up. It got 120,000 likes, but I hate to tell you guys this, it's completely false. So I'm not too sure when this rumor started, but a lot of people think that NASA discovered a giant creature in the ocean that made them so terrified that they decided humanity should just leave this planet altogether. But NASA is actually extremely involved with exploring the ocean because otherworldly planets also might have oceans, and this is a great place for them to test out their technology. One project that comes to mind when we're talking about NASA and ocean exploration is their project Subsea, where they go down to hydrothermal vents and look for life and explore. So anytime you see this claim that NASA does not want to explore the ocean, just know that it's completely false. It's just some copy pasta. While this is true, this is honestly the least of your concerns, and this is something that nobody watching this video should ever attempt. This is a classic Did You Know slideshow, starting off by saying, did you know that if you don't sleep for 3 or more days, you might start hallucinating and seeing stuff that isn't supposed to exist? Now, this is 100% true, but hallucinations can actually start as early as 24 hours without sleep. It just depends on the type of person. But as previously mentioned, hallucinations are just one of the symptoms that you can experience. It also comes with an increased risk of death, heart attack, and stroke, and generally it is not good for your brain. So at this point, you might be wondering, how long is the longest anyone stayed awake? And that title belongs to Randy Gardner, who back in the 1960s stayed awake for 11 days and 25 minutes. I do believe, though, that back in 2024, this record was broken by this streamer, but he got banned off of streaming because this is just so dangerous. All of this to say, doing this is a very foolish thing to do. Just make sure you get sleep, at least 8 hours a night. I don't think you guys realize how insane the timing of this video is because I just visited this exhibit. This TikTok slideshow that I got tagged in first starts off by saying, did you know that there was a man who sculpted a statue of himself using his own hair, teeth, nails, and blood? And what are the odds? Because yesterday I went to Ripley's Believe It or Not museum, and I found his exhibit. The guy's name is Hananuma. Now for some backstory, Hananuma Masakichi was a sculptor back in the 1800s, and he passed away in 1895. But what he's most well known for is his extremely lifelike sculptures, and specifically the one that he made for himself after he believed he was dying from tuberculosis. Hananuma sculpted himself completely out of wood, completing the look with some of his hair, nails, and teeth, and then he also added in very small details like pores on his skin. And this statue was so lifelike that a lot of people used to think this was a real person when they saw it. In terms of using his own bodily fluids, though, there's nothing about this online. So by this point, I'm sure many of you are familiar with this disturbing and creepy TikTok audio, but a lot of people probably don't know where it came from. This slideshow that I got tagged in is pretty interesting, starting off by saying, did you know that this audio originated from a video of a man being mauled and skinned on the dark web, then it was added to a game. So first off, this audio originally comes from the game Half-Life 2, specifically these zombies, and in the game you can't tell what they're saying, but when you reverse what they're saying, this is what we get. Help God, help, help me. Now, as far as the claim for this audio coming from some dark web video and then them adding it to the game, this is not what happened, at least according to my research. According to my research, this audio was created by Mark Laidlaw and Bill Van Buren late in the evening, and it was so convincing that a lot of people thought someone was being murdered in the office. And I think we can all agree, no matter where this audio came from, it is insanely creepy and disturbing. They knocked this one out of the park. Yes, this statement is accurate, although I don't know why this is such a bad fact because nothing is going to happen to us. This slideshow that I got tagged in starts off by saying, did you know that there's a black hole only 2,000 light years away from Earth? We have a pretty large black hole around 2,000 light years away. There's one even closer at 1,500 light years. But a light year is a very large distance, around 5.88 trillion miles. The closest black hole is Gaia BH1, which has a mass roughly 10 times the amount of our sun, but this is still way too far away to have any impact on us, and it's not traveling towards us either. In fact, scientists are so confident a black hole is not going to swallow up Earth, they think there's a higher chance in 5 billion years, when the sun becomes a red giant, that is going to be what ends Earth. That being said, there's always a chance anything can happen in space, but this isn't something that you should be concerned about. Everything should be fine and dandy within your period of life in terms of space, and these black holes that are closest to us really aren't a threat.